Hi, Dr. Cranky's back again. We're looking at brakes today, how to adjust our brakes. We'll often find we spin the wheel that the brakes aren't turning, they're clenched on, or that we can't actually get enough brake strength when we pull on the brakes. So let's have a look at what might be wrong. The first thing to check when you get this happening is whether the brake cable is all the way threaded through, so all the way here. Oh, and you'll often find that this is what's happened, is that the housing is pulled out of the end of the brake lever. So we're just got to pull that back and it goes in there, so pull that back so it fits in there, so everything's operating smoothly. And then let's see what's happening now once we've done that. It's still running. Oh, it's braking, but it's pulling on one side. So when we find this, it's hitting on one side. So this is loose on one side but tight on the other. The first thing to do is check whether the wheel is straight in the fork. So occasionally you'll find that you haven't put the wheel straight in the fork, so you'll have to loosen the bolts up and make sure it's straight. So if it's not, then it's the wheel's off on one side and dragging on one side of the brake, so it's not even. But we can see here it's even, so it's not that the wheel is not, the axle is not in the fork properly. So that's the first thing to check. Easy to do when it's on the ground. The next thing to check is whether we've checked all this, that the brakes are even. There's nothing that, one's not loose, one's not stiff. Now that seems to be working. Also check that the back, sometimes this one will fall off, so one won't be pulling and the other one will. So if that's the case, then this one will pull and the other one won't. So make sure those springs are sitting in behind here. So that's the other one that often happens. You find the spring is popped out and it's not pulling on one side. That seems a little bit better. You can see that one is still a bit uneven, so if we want to adjust that from side to side, there's some tension screws here. Remember, this has a spring that comes down and around. This wire here is the spring comes down, and this can adjust the tension. So if we want this brake to come out, we wind this screw in because it increases the tension. So in this case, this one here is too far in, so we want to pull that out, so we increase the tension. We push that in just with a flathead is probably best, and you'll find you'll have to brake on here. Is it coming back out? Still got, so as we wind that one in, we wind this one out to release the tension. This is nearly all the way out in any case. Yep, this one still needs to keep on going in. Only one or two turns at a time. And check again. A bit more. It's releasing back. There we go. So these brake adjustments. If that doesn't work, then you'll have to take the whole thing off. And in behind here, I'm not sure if you can see it, there's three little slots that the spring can fit into. You can loosen the whole thing off. So 1, 2, 3. That's on the mid. I think that's on the mid one. It's on the middle one. There's 3 of them in there. Loosen this one off. Loosen this off. Pull the whole thing up and adjust the spring into the one to increase or decrease the tension. So we're about right there, I think. I think this is rubbing a bit here on the tyre, so we want to just adjust that, bring it down a bit, and again we want the front of the brake touching just before the rear, so they're not touching at the same time. It's probably a bit low now, so I'll put it up a bit higher. Yep, hold the brake pad while you tighten that. That's still not quite right. One hose. Yep. There we go. No sound, and the brakes work. Very good. I've got a little problem up here I'll have to deal with later. That's good. So another brake adjustment, if after a while the brakes will wear down and it will become harder and harder to get full pressure, so you'll have to increase the tension of the brakes or bring in the cable. So at this end you can do the major adjustments, but up here at the brake lever you can do some minor adjustments. So up here we've got this tension screw, the lock nut here, the lock nut, and then the adjustment screw. So if we loosen the lock nut, and we can pull this one, turn this one out, and it increases the tension bit by bit. So you can do that on the fly as you're going, but after a while you'll run out of space. You'll need to adjust the tension down here, and this is by we loosen this one and bring it further in, or loosen it out if it's the other way, and tighten it up. Always when you've done that, just check it's not going to come loose 10 times as per a safety check. So that's the major adjustment. And then this comes in and sits in behind here, so it's not flicking on stuff. Always like to have the cable end so it doesn't fray. That's in behind there. Done. Adjusted our brakes. We've adjusted our brakes. We're all set to go. Now we come to adjusting the brakes on the smaller bike. And sometimes, in some cases, you'll find that they're off centre, so one brake is touching. This can be a balance thing. So the way to adjust this is at the back. There's a nut which tightens, which holds the whole thing together, and there's a lock nut at the front, and then a nut in here too. But I put a wrench on this one and a wrench on the inside one, or both at the same time, and then we can adjust this both at the same time, and so we've freed it up. The other thing that can happen is these need adjusting up and down, the brake pads, so we can loosen that nut and up and back. There's no angle adjustment on these, so and you'll often find that these are bent if the child's had a crash. So you've got to get in and use brute force to adjust this, just with some needle nose pliers or normal pliers, and just turn these until you get the right angle. So with multi-grips or needle nose pliers, so that's how you adjust that. Again, we've shown you how to loosen that off, so we can expand that out, and also up at the brake lever. So that's how you do those. Always check at the end, make sure they're aligning on the rim and then on the tyre. Check 10 times, and we're done.